Hello there friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tank. My name is Alan. When Chancellor Finis Valorum failed to intervene during the Naboo crisis, Queen Padme Amidala of Naboo issued a vote of no confidence for the Chancellor, a motion that was quickly seconded by Senator Edisel Bargane of Runa. Now, I didn't know regents and monarchs who aren't technically galactic representatives could do such a thing. I mean, what is the relationship between the Queen of Naboo and the Republic in the first place? But anyway, by using this vote of no confidence to clear out Valorum, it opened up an opportunity for the young senator from Naboo, Sheev Palpatine. It was the first of many smart moves that Palpatine would make to acquire power and transition the Republic from a democracy to an authoritarian government. The thing is, the same tools that Palpatine used to remove an ineffective chancellor could have also been used against him during the Clone Wars. After all, democracy as old and as stable as the Republic should have checks and balances to ensure that someone cannot exploit the system as Palpatine did. As corrupt as the Galactic Senate might seem, the majority of representatives still really believed in the system and wanted to preserve the system. Individuals like Vice Chair Mas Amito were loved so much because he was a stickler for the rules and actually enjoyed the bureaucratic process. And so the question I have for you guys today is, why didn't the Senate use the tools available to them to remove Palpatine from office before it was too late and he turned into the Emperor? Some people enter politics to service the people. Some people enter politics to service a specific ideology. Palpatine, however, entered political service with one clear goal in his mind, and that is the accumulation of power. Palpatine from the very beginning was very focused and a very patient individual. He slowly built up alliances everywhere he went. He made sure that he didn't alienate too many other politicians. As a matter of fact, he lost many elections in the domestic arena before he transitioned to the galactic level, and he did this purposely because he felt like he wasn't ready at the time. When Sheev Palpatine became the senator for the Chamal sector, aka Naboo, and 35 other affiliated worlds, he wasted no time in continuing to make friends in the Galactic Senate. Palpatine was a political monster. He was also a Sith Lord, and these two character traits made him really good at making friends with almost everyone in the halls of the Senate. Palpatine most likely used his Force abilities to get a better read on individuals he was trying to develop a relationship with. More importantly, Palpatine rarely ever gave other people any ideas of his own political views. Most people didn't even know how to describe him beyond the fact that he was a likable and quiet individual. And that's because Palpatine purposely made himself a very good listener, and when you're surrounded by a bunch of egotistical senators who want nothing more than for people to listen to their ideas, well, he learned a lot about how people acted and what drove them. Little did these senators know they were all falling under Palpatine's spell and getting very little in return. Instead of being suspicious about Palpatine's lack of political ideology, they saw him as a friend, someone who they could trust. And they also most likely had some confirmation bias and believed that he had the same political beliefs that they did. Palpatine also happened to be a representative from the Mid-Rim, which in the hierarchy of the Senate meant that he was viewed as less powerful and less of a threat, which is exactly what Palpatine wanted. Quietly, Senator Palpatine became a very prominent power broker in the halls of the Senate. He might not have been as famous as some of the other senators amongst the general population, but almost every senator knew his name and knew that they had to go through him if they wanted something to pass on the Senate floor. Now, unlike in our own Republic, the Galactic Republic was not a two-party system. There were instead hundreds of factions and committees and other alliances that were focused on specific regions of the galaxy, specific industries, and specific issues. Now, these types of governments are generally more chaotic, and there is much more forced collaboration between unlikely parties. Palpatine's ability to trade senators' votes like a commodity helped put him in the right position to become the Chancellor when Finis Valorum was voted out of office. So it's not surprising that the young senator for Naboo would win the election by a landslide, and he would continue using his Senate whipping skills to maintain power through most of his tenure. One of the individuals that Palpatine ran against for chancellorship was Bail Organa of Alderaan. Alderaan was one of the most important worlds in the Republic from a cultural and intellectual standpoint. Wherever Alderaan went, the rest of the galaxy would follow. Bail Organa was seen as a compassionate and wise politician. And so after winning the election, Palpatine maintained a very close relationship with his former adversary. Both Organa and Palpatine shared the belief that the Republic had been frozen by bureaucratic gridlock. Chancellor Palpatine would keep Bail Organa close by his side, and when the Separatist crisis happened, Bail was one of the prominent supporters of adopting the newly discovered clone army and giving Chancellor Palpatine emergency power so that he could actually create a federal military. Shortly after the Battle of Geonosis, Palpatine would set up the Loyalist Committee. This was an advisory board made up of some of the most powerful senators in the galaxy. Amongst the original 10 were Padme Amidala and Bail Organa. The purpose of the Loyalist Committee was to weed out Senate corruption and shore up support for the Republic. Palpatine would place many of his potential enemies, individuals who would oppose his grab for power, inside of this Loyalist Committee. You see, Palpatine didn't want to isolate himself from his critics. Instead, he wanted to engage them and maybe find some common ground. Later on, other individuals like Mon Mothma and Sheik Iwe Papa Nuida would join the organization as well. Having prominent defenders of the Republic and the democratic process gave legitimacy to the Loyalist Committee. Palpatine also made sure that all political views were represented within this smaller group. By placing so many potential detractors to his plan to seize power and continue the militarization of the Republic, Palpatine was able to silence dissenters by simply overwhelming them with tasks so that they didn't have much time for anything else. By establishing a personal and friendly relationship with most of his critics, Palpatine was able to win over many senators and develop very good relations with them. The Loyalist Committee was also designed to make senators suspicious of their peers and create mistrust in the Senate, so less focus would be placed on what he was doing. Palpatine would further isolate Bail Organa by placing him in charge of the new Senate Security Committee. This new job would take Bail Organa away from Coruscant and prevent him from linking up with other potential detractors. When Palpatine took over the intergalactic banking clans, he reluctantly had to do it because otherwise the galactic economy might collapse. It wasn't his fault that deep ties and favoritism had been found between Rush Clovis, the head of the banks, and the Separatist leader Count Dooku. When the Galactic Republic was running out of money and supplies to continue the war effort and build new tanks and weapons and more clones, it wasn't Palpatine who proposed the Republic Financial Reform Bill that regulated the bank's ability to open new lines of credit to the Republic. It was corporate interests like Lot Dodd of the Trade Federation, Halle Bertoni of Camino, and Nix Card of the Intergalactic Banking Clan who pushed forward this bill. Palpatine actually remained neutral, as he always would, and whatever influence he had went unseen. He always pulled the puppet strings from behind the curtains. In public, he was seen as a wise individual who gave advice to both sides of an argument. He oftentimes argued against the very position that he secretly supported. The fact that a lot of the legislation that was passed during his reign gave him more executive privileges and power just was a coincidence, I guess. The common folk on the street of Coruscant would most likely look at Palpatine as the humble man who reluctantly used his power to efficiently bypass the corrupt and inefficient Senate. In this way, Palpatine was very much like Julius Caesar. He was so beloved by the people. His personality was so likable that any move against him by the Senate would probably create problems. Any resolution to remove Palpatine would be seen by many as a power grab by the Senate, because from their point of view, Palpatine did nothing wrong. Then there was the real threat from the Separatist alliance. When the Republic Military Enhancement Bill was passed, creating an additional 5 million clone troopers, it was widely supported by most Coruscanti citizens because the Separatists had carried out a bombing of Coruscant's central power distribution grid just days earlier. Soon it became very apparent that going up against Palpatine was like going against the Republic. No one wanted to be seen as a traitor. Even prominent senators who would go on to start the anti-Palpatine movement known as the Delegation of 2000 were hesitant to criticize Palpatine in fear of sounding like a separatist.
We cannot let 1,000 years of democracy disappear without a fight.
What are you suggesting?
I apologize. I don't mean to sound like a separatist.
In another really brilliant move, Palpatine essentially made the idea of seceding from the Republic or opposing the Republic seem immoral. And that was because it was related to the Confederacy of Independence system, which caused so much death and destruction and committed a fair share of war crimes. Padme Amidala, another one of his biggest critics, also hesitated in moving against him.
I can't believe it has come to this. Chancellor Palpatine is one of my oldest advisors. He served as my ambassador when I was queen.
She, like everyone else in the room, had been duped by Palpatine, who was a master politician. He always chose the path of least resistance, and he always played his cards very carefully. He used discipline and patience to make sure that no one ever knew what exactly he was up to. So there you have it, guys. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button down below so you don't miss out on the rest of our awesome content. And as usual, thanks for joining us today. If you're watching this, you are Generation Tech.